Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillia. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Adventure Camp 2024. Here we are, boys. It is going to be epic. We've already got lots of stories to talk about. Myself, we've got the legend RC Knox in the house. We got WWJGD would be here for sure. Cody the Kid's here. Mr. Chico Gallegos is here. We got Doc Bart in the house with us. All of our adventure campers, Keith Durr, the Paul Perky and his son Seth, JR and Mark and Jeremy Gilbertson, all here in the house, and we're going to shoot a podcast right here from Elk Camp.
Yeah.
Chav, the ninja's here as well. Sorry, Chav, didn't mean to leave you out. He's sitting away from the table because, you know, when Chav talks, everybody listens. So we got him at the head up there at the table.
So you guys are getting the live. I mean, this is it. It's raining. We're underneath tents. This is all going to be all audio. So when we talk about certain things that they can't see, we'll try to describe it for you guys there. But this is our Adventures 24 camp. We've got all the guys here that are in our adventure camp. And for those of you guys that don't know what that is, our adventure camp is a coached elk hunting camp. In other words, we have guys here that have purchased a hunt to come in. They've had months of coaching back and forth with all of our
baptism by a fire hose from base camp for sure.
Yeah. So you guys have worked with Chav on fitness. You worked with Guy Duplantier on gear. You worked with Gil here in RC on failure points. You've been with myself, and I think I did something on how to light a fire, right? I think that's
calling with Joe Gillia.
So we've had all of that, right? Yeah. And and Luis, right?
Luis. Can't forget him. How he's got these guys set up with some really great arrow and broadhead combinations. Look at everybody's stuff. Heck, my guy Mark Koch actually has Luis's wraps, our ElkBros wraps on his arrows. So shout out, Mark. Appreciate you representing the brand, brother.
Yeah. And so what we want to do here is, for you guys that are listening, you're going to get a chance to meet, hear, see, and it's so cool because there are things that these guys, these are everyday hunters just like yourself, that have been going through or having issues just like you have out there. And it's so cool because their perspectives are totally different than ours. Every one of you guys now have been with, and what happens is when they show up to adventure camp, it's from the moment they get here, we start coaching. We've already coached before they got here, but now it's boots on the ground. And the whole goal is to get them to transfer from, and this is not a guided hunt, right? This is not a guided hunt. This is a coached hunt, and the idea is to help them become the best DIY hunters that they can be. In fact, that's something that every day, like, I talk to my coaches about. It's great to kill an elk. That is something that is icing on the cake. But if we're guiding them and they kill an elk, then they got an elk this year. Our goal is to give them the skill set so that they themselves can kill elk every year, right? To make them into the best DIY hunters that they can be. And so with that said, you're going to get a chance to hear some of the stories. You're going to hear some of the issues, the problems. I want you guys to think about some of the things that have been like the main aha moments for you, the things that you like about what's going on here. Maybe you could tell a little bit about what it's done for you, or what you wanted out of it, and whether or not we've sucked doing that or not. Right?
Yeah. We want the good, bad, and the ugly, but don't be a butthole because we don't do buttholes, right? So
I am seeing some people when I said that we sucked. I saw a lot of heads bobbing yes right there. So
Well, and I'll just say this is a culmination of the last 3 years, right, of Joe, myself, RC, Chav, listening to our previous adventure campers, right, adventure hunters, right, that have come into camp with us. And I got to tell you, man, Joe listened to everything we said, and I can't thank him enough. The format is so much better than when we started. Not that our format was bad when we first started, but it's the first time, right? And we were very successful in the first time. But I think you guys came into this camp so ready, man, and so primed. We're very proud of what we've put together in a learning format, in an academic format, right, for you guys to hit the ground, and I mean immediately running. Right, have some idea about what's going on. Heck, I mean, the Perkies already got one under their belt before they ever show up to New Mexico. So kudos to Seth and the team of the Perkies, and they already put one on the ground. So congratulations, Seth and Paul.
Yeah,
Fantastic
they're actually
job.
they're hunting as a team. I mean, their goal was they wanted to come in and learn how to be a team. You know, they call for each other, they hunt with each other. Everybody else here is learning basically to be a solo hunter. And some of you guys have had experience already. You've actually been out on your own elk hunting. Some of you, this is new. And so you'll be able to talk about it. And you guys will get to meet some of our coaches. I think you've met most of our coaches at one point in time. Jeremy, you have not been on a podcast yet with us, right? This is the first time, huh? Yeah. And you've been already be working like a dog this elk season. I mean,
yeah, what a rock star, huh? I mean, Joe says I got this kid that, I believe is going to be really good. Oh, my God, he's an absolute rock star. So we appreciate all your help.
October's for sleeping.
Not if you come to Texas. We'll put you in a deer stand.
Perfect.
Yeah. No, you've already been, you've done basically a teaching guide situation early in the season with one of our drawn hunters. Then you went
got
from
a gold horseshoe in his pocket, man.
Yeah, they actually, and you guys killed an elk on day 3?
Day 5.
Day 5.
Yep.
I was going to give you more credit.
Oh no, props to Larry Gill. That guy's a machine.
He is a machine, man.
And Larry's 83.
Larry's 83. At least he told me that. He's told everybody else I heard
79.
Different. He said 79, man. I think old Larry's trying to pull a fast one on us, Joe.
Yeah.
And I know Knox knows, because Knox and him are pretty close to age, right?
No, Knox is 72.
Well, I was hoping I could get him, man. Where's he at? Oh, there he is over there. Look at he's coming with his hammer. He's coming with his hammer to get me, man.
and then, dude, you got to spend some time in the woods with Jonathan Scott and Brenton Howie. Man, they who were the winners of the second season of Hunt Wars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, great guys. They're still grinding out there. I think they're gonna get it done.
Yeah, and just tremendous. I got a chance to spend a day with them myself out there. So, and then you jumped over here to camp, and same thing for you, right, Cody, man?
Yeah.
You were in camp with Tom Rock.
Yep, with Tom. I was over there for 3 days, so in and out of bowls, and they're still grinding out today. So
yeah,
great experience, and had a lot of fun with those guys. So
Keith, man, that's a segue right to you, man, because I've known you for a while.
Yeah.
Right. First of all, through you just like showing up at some of our events and saying hello and getting to meet,
the crew.
Yeah, the crew, and that was a letdown from the beginning for you.
No, it wasn't. It's nice to come out and see everybody in person and realize you're not just voices on a podcast, and see. I mean, you watch you on YouTube and you can see the animation and the feeling and emotion, but actually to come here and feel brotherly love is very awesome. Very awesome.
So who's been kissing on you?
Nobody.
Oh. So let's get to what people are interested in, though. You came here, to learn about elk hunting. Now, dude, you have been in the elk woods for a number of years now.
7 or so, yeah.
7 years?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And how many elk you got under your belt?
Just one with a rifle.
Okay.
Yeah, that was that's why I do bow, right? Because it's more of a challenge, in my opinion.
Right.
And
Have you not heard what I said about rifles?
I don't.
Bows are for hunting, rifles are for killing. Ask the Indians; they'll tell you.
Ouch. Yeah. So I guess I spent a lot of days in the woods there in Colorado, unsuccessful. Sometimes with partners, with 2 or 3 folks. Other times, mostly by myself. Went through your academies multiple times. I feel like I'm out there doing what Joe Gillia would do, but I'm just not executing, right? Which finishing the objective, which is what drove me to come here to Adventure Camp.
So I think you told me though you had 60 days in the mountains and didn't see an elk.
Yeah, I saw more moose in the state of Colorado than I've seen elk.
So if you're doing what Joe Gillia did, I done taught you wrong. Then. Something's happening here.
Yeah.
So I think that's the cool part of this is, and for all you guys, man, like you can go through base camp, which gives you an edge. You can listen to the podcast, and we've got a lot of people that are out there listening right now that listen to the podcast. And I wish y'all could see the letters I've been getting. You know,
It's success stories, right?
Yeah, all these people.
Or near misses, right?
Or people that have been successful after their first year
Yeah.
and things like that. It's so cool to hear that. But it's so different when you get boots on the ground and when you get with the coach.
Yep.
So for you, now you've had the kid, you've had
Yeah.
Cody the kid with you, and what's been different about it? Because you did see an elk on day
Yeah.
one.
The first afternoon we went out, which is soul crushing for me. And my ego and whatever, but awesome for the experience. So Cody calls a lot softer than I'm used to doing, and I think we moved through the woods about the same. We're spotting poo and tracks and rubs and all that. All of that was the same, but his approach to to the hillside. I pay attention to the wind, but at the letter D grade, he pays attention to the wind at the letter A grade, and that's probably
Because he knows how important it is.
yeah. And I thought I knew how important it was, but I've never seen it executed to the level that
There you
he's
go.
executing it.
There you go.
So that's a huge coaching point for me.
And so you don't feel inadequate, brother, because this elk hunting's hard. We've been up here for 3 years, right? Understanding the movements, understanding some pattern types, understanding how to transverse these ridges and these trenasses, and how to do it efficiently, right?
Yeah.
When you go hire a fishing guide, that's what he does. He takes you and puts you on the fish and shows you how to do it efficiently, right? Hopefully they bite. He can't make them bite,
Right,
but
right.
hopefully you're around the right wad, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to get you guys in the highest percentage areas that we can without having all the outside forces that we can't control on a DIY hunt, right?
Right.
Other hunters, weather, you name it, animals, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
So don't feel bad, man. This is the 3 years of us putting on hundreds of miles,
Yeah, right.
together, and then meeting in the middle and discussing everything, because we tell each other everything, right? I mean, we ain't sandbagging anybody,
Yeah.
So when Joe comes in, you got to spill your guts, or you ain't coaching for him. So.
And speaking of weather, if you guys are hearing a lot of noise, man, it's because we're getting hit with rain here. We're actually inside a tent and getting hit with that. And here's the thing too is like the style of what our camp is day one. Our goal as coaches is to take our hunters and to show them our rhythm, how we go through the woods, because I think that's been one of the things that you were talking about, Seth, is like the cadence and the rhythm of things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's one big takeaway from the past few days was kind of finding the finesse of the piece we were missing, which is the cadence, moving, when to move fast, when to move slow, when to check for wind, when to do this, when to do that, are all things that I would say we do averagely, and Joe does them either very fast, or very slow. And when to do those items is kind of the important part of what's driven us to get some opportunities and see some elk.
Yeah. It's just you get to actually see that and understand that in real time, right? So everybody here is actually, when you're seeing your coach, you're getting to see like, okay,
Style.
yeah, that style, like, you know, how much time, how much calling, why, where, why, how, right? And it's actually applied there in the woods, and you're like, well, dude, and that's the cool part. Like Seth, man, asks me questions all the time.
Yeah,
Paul asks
Mark
questions
too. Yep.
all the time, and all you guys, right?
Yep.
I mean, if you're not asking questions, you're really losing out, right? So, what we do on day one is that style is our coaches are leading and showing the rhythm, and they're starting to, because we all know each other. We've known each other now. We've been doing Zoom calls for 2.5 months, I think, right?
Easy.
More than that, right?
We started in April.
Yeah,
May. May-ish.
yeah. So it's been a long time that we've been doing that, and those calls are on all aspects of the hunt. So we already know each other, and now that we get here and we get a chance to do it, now this is like the first time some of you guys have met Chico, or you met Jeremy, right? Or you met Cody, and it's really, really cool for me. I hope all y'all, and I'm sure it is for Gil and RC and Chav, to see this. But you don't know how proud it makes me to see guys like Jeremy and Chico. And, you know, I've known Chico 40 years. You know, I was his coach at one time. So it's very, very special to me to have that, you know, this relationship to happen. And to see him involved in something that has been a dream for us,
For
right?
sure. And special to have him.
Yeah.
Special to have him.
Yeah, he's very, and okay, so without him saying so, you know, JR, you've had that chance, man, to be with this guy, and how has that been different? What has Chico brought to the table for you, man?
Yeah, no, Chico is amazing. Really been great getting to know him, and on a personal level outside of elk hunting, but then also like in the elk woods, like having his advice on like, okay, where do we go next? Where might the elk be when this is what we see? Or where should we go when this is what we're seeing in the woods? Or, hey, is this a good spot to set up and do a calling scenario? You know, and just be able to listen on when he does a calling scenario, how it's different than how I've done calling scenarios before, and just learning from that, and because his calling is different than yours, Joe, or yours, Gil, and so it's awesome to be able to see the differences, and that it doesn't have to be the same for it to work. That you can like kind of interject your own types of calling and style in there for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. You know what works, but the cool part is the critter behaviors, like the types of things, like the types of good setups, where to set up, where would the elk be. All of those things run pretty much the same. I mean, that is a skill set, right?
Right.
Then it's how each individual deals with that when they get in that situation. So,
exactly. Yep.
But he's also he's also kind of run you up and down the mountain a little, hadn't he?
Yeah, Chico is quite the athlete.
Yeah, I say that he morphs into the bighorn sheep spirit, as you know, from his Apache heritage. He morphs into the bighorn sheep when he got to go chase the wapiti. You know,
and even though that he could run these mountains, he lets me take the lead to go at my pace. Is very encouraging along the way, and you know, if I tell him, hey, I can't go any higher, he'll be like, all right, well, let's try this way. You know, we have alternatives, we have other ways we can work, and those types of things. So it's been great.
And then eventually you find yourself higher, right?
And then eventually we get higher. Yeah.
And not the good kind.
Now, bro, you have been, Chico, with me now. This is like year 2.
Right.
We did stuff on the Moots place together out there, and we have talked about this way prior. You know, you actually went through the academy. You went through that, took a look at it, and the philosophy and everything that we were doing. So for you as a coach, what has this meant to you, man?
Well, it was something I could buy into. Just the whole philosophy. I learned to hunt mainly from my older brother Lee. He was super patient, just so patient with me. We hunted with my dad. I've added a few people that I hunt with, but the folks that I hunt with are really, it's a very small group of people that I'm comfortable hunting with. Buddy named Terry Pecos, and my brother from Jemez. Those are a lot of years of hunting together, where we kind of know where, what the other's going to do, where they're going to end up. Sometimes, we can split up and we know exactly where the person's going to go. So this was, this setup, and when you started talking to me about this, it felt very familiar. It felt like, okay, this is how I grew up. This is how I learned how to hunt. Sharing knowledge freely, not hiding the ball. Nothing's a secret. These are things that are tried and true. Being patient, respecting the animals, respecting the outdoors. Listening to your hunter. So part of this kind of got me out of my comfort zone, because I'm meeting people for the first time I've never hunted with. That's not something I would have done before. So that's been a something that's helped me grow. I'm kind of, I would tell my kids, if you're uncomfortable, you're growing. Yeah. So now I'm kind of, taking my own advice. And so if I feel like I've grown a lot. I've been very fortunate to have, JR was real easy, just to, he's very easygoing, very game, listens. I'm watching him too. I mean, I'm always learning. Yeah. So there are things that he does, or that, that I'm like, oh, I can do that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to take that. So it's a two-way street. When you're hunting, whether you're the coach or the hunter, the coach or the coached, once you're out there, it's a two-way street. You're equals. That's the way I see it. So this has been, and at this point in my life, my kids are grown and out of the house. I've got grandkids now who I was looking at photographs of my granddaughter just a while ago because I miss them. But this is good timing for me too. And it's good to know that at 56 I can still walk like a goat up and down them hills.
Yeah. Well, so. And I think I think these outdoors and that connection and walking those mountains makes that 56-year-old, back into a 36-year-old.
You bet.
It does something for us pretty special like that. And one of the things that I heard him say to somebody, and it was actually prior to you, I think it was when he was with Adam, I believe. It was really good advice that I had never heard put that way. All of us have styles that always say things, and you were just telling him to slow down. And even though you can't see necessarily 80 yards in, you're looking 80 yards in.
Yeah.
To try to, and that's one of the things that I was trying to tell my guys, and for all you guys out there that are listening, I see so many guys walking in woods looking more at their feet and looking more at 10 and 15 yards or 20 and 30 yards than looking those 80 yards. Really looking out there, because there's a saying that you have about where elk see, where elk hear, and where elk smell. It was like 80 and 150 and 300, right?
Yeah. They can hear you and not necessarily be spooked. They can hear you at long ways away. They'll see you, but they'll smell you first. Mm-hmm. And so, but that's why for me, and it actually played out with the first hunter with Adam. 80 yards. 80 yards was where that cow started coming in, and it was, I think I saw an ear flicker, and kind of when she turned sideways, just the tip of her nose. That's all I could see, first at 80 yards. But,
yeah, and I think, believe it or not, the way I heard you say it, and it really made a lot of sense to me, is that an elk will see you at 80 yards. They'll hear you at 150 yards, and they'll smell you at 300 yards, right?
Right, that's right.
So that's why.
Huge perspective.
Yeah, it's a really cool perspective. I thought that was really neat. Actually going to tagline that somehow, because I think more people, if you guys listening, take that to heart. And what he's saying, man, if you can spot them before they spot you, and you take care of your scent with the wind, you don't have to worry about the 300, right? You know.
The counselor over here is going, no, I'm copywriting it, Joe.
Yeah.
It's already been trademarked. It's gonna be on a T-shirt.
On a T-shirt.
Yeah.
No, and really, we're like, I think we are a day and a half in on the hunt, right? And already there's been, I don't think everybody's seen or had encounters, right? I think it's been pretty cool. So let's I will go to you, Bart, because now you're with the young guy over here. I thought that was a really great mix, because it's funny when I saw Bart come into camp, he doesn't come across in real life like he does on video, right? I have seen all you guys a lot on video, because I get all of these video calling pieces where you guys are taking time, you're practicing your calls, you're sending them to me, right? And then I critique and we go back and forth like that. Well, Doc, he's sending them to me like I can see woods behind him. He's in scrubs, right?
Got to get it where you can.
Yeah. But when you came in, man, you were bigger, stronger, and a whole lot more energetic than I pictured. And as soon as I saw that energy, I figured, I know where that match needs to go.
With the ultra marathoner.
How has that match been for you?
It's been great. Yeah, Jeremy's a rock star. I mean, the base camp gives us the fundamentals. You know, elk hunting is a super complicated activity.
Super dynamic.
Yeah, and it's complex. You know, it's
Yeah.
not like you go
Very
out there
much
and ABC and you get an animal on the ground.
Yeah.
But Jeremy's been great. He's like locked down on the fundamentals. He's been a superior coach, because he will every time we get into a situation, he'll say, "What do you think?" And then I'll tell him, you know, well, this is how I would break this down. This is where we should move into here, or whatever the situation I think calls for. And then he'll say, yeah, that's reasonable, or he'll give some, you know, some other, you know, other way to think about it. So he gives me the opportunity to break it down first, and then he gives me his guidance, which is the complexity. You know, I have the fundamentals, and he's got that complexity that he can bring to bear on my experience. I've only been doing this for 2 years, so.
So you've been in the elk woods, right?
Yeah, I went with a traditional guide last year and didn't feel like that was for me, and then found you guys, and it's been great. I mean, the feedback you've given us, the whole team leading up to Adventure Camp's been incredible.
So that's one thing I want to, before I forget, and Gil would probably say the same thing, that I have to really commend this group on, man, is the work on the calling before you guys got to camp.
100%, fellas. I told y'all not to forget your pillow and don't quit calling. I mean, and I meant that. I meant that. And y'all did. When y'all showed up, y'all showed out. And it was really cool to see.
Yeah, we put them on the spot day one.
Did. On the spot day one. They came in here ready to go. From cow calls to massive bugles to unbelievable chuckles by Mr. Seth. I mean, and that's a very complex call. I sucked for years doing that, you know? So, I mean, at the end of the day, kudos to y'all for putting the work in, you know? Because that's what's going to sustain you here. This is hard what we're doing, fellas. It's extremely difficult.
Makes a huge difference. I mean, to me, honestly, man, you know, like you guys have, a lot of you guys have the Luis arrows on your bow, right? Yeah. I think you found out the fitness in this country is extremely important, you know, because, you know, you get back, the nights get short.
They get real short.
They get short. And, you know,
the cramps stay long.
You're going up and Seth, he's such a grump in the morning, man. You ought to see this guy. So, but you know, and that's why I want to ask you, Jeremy, because this is a new experience for you too. And what's so cool about this is you were a listener just a year ago, right? Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah, it's been an incredible experience all around. I was a listener to ElkBros and started hunting, and started using Joe's playbook, and it worked. So I kept doing it and kept listening and got some laughs along the way. Thank you, Gilbert. and this camp is
glad to help, bro.
This camp has been incredible. I mean, hunting with Bart has been fantastic. I think he has two qualities that are absolutely essential in successful elk hunters. The first, if you talk to the guy, I don't know how many degrees he has and how many professions he's held, but he is a student of life and a student of the game in every way. We'll be getting into a setup, and I'm thinking about it one way, and he'll go like, I don't know if he's pulled up episode numbers, but remember when Joe said this? Yeah, he did say that. I suppose we should probably consider that. But he you wouldn't know that this is his second season elk hunting. He knows everything that we've talked about. He's clearly studied the game plan. And the other aspect, he does not know how to quit. We were up on the mountain today, and it's hailing, and the lightning's coming over the ridge, and I'm thinking, like, we got to get moving. And he looks at me, he's like, you think we can try one more setup? I'm like, yeah, I guess so, man. We'll keep going. And yeah, every time I look back, he's right there, and I'm thinking maybe it's time to head back, and he keeps charging up the mountain, and that's what it takes to be successful. You can't quit. You got to do what you can do. Don't be unsafe, but if you got more in the tank, if you give it, good things are going to happen.
I'm right there breathing real heavy behind the ultramarathoner.
Somebody there was a little book that I got one time called 200 Degrees, and the whole idea of the book was that you can heat water up to a point that is just hot water, but you give that one more little bit of energy to raise that to another degree, and it becomes steam. It becomes something that's powerful, that can move things. And sometimes out here, what we're doing just takes that little bit more of energy to make something positive happen. And we are hunting for hours and days for
that 30 seconds.
For those seconds, right? Yeah. I want to jump back because I had Keith had a chance to talk here, and I want to get the kid on, man. And we call him the kid. We call him Cody the Kid. It was just something that started the first time that we met him.
Don't worry,
well, you
Jeremy,
spelled my name wrong on the phone.
And he's got a pedigree because Kevin Kirkpatrick, his dad, is probably one of the best storytellers that and what a great guy he is. And man, I tell you what, the apple didn't fall far from the tree at all. And Cody, this is not his first camp with us. He actually came in, did some coaching with us last year, which was tremendous. And what's so cool about this is this dude actually won for our first year when we were doing our first camp. He won the Hunt with the ElkBros giveaway that we had, and actually came in to hunt just with me, RC, Chav, and the Mafia, right?
Yep, for sure.
So you had an experience that a lot of people haven't had with us, right?
You got to hunt with everybody.
I got to hunt with everybody. Yeah. So, I got to see different styles. And just like, what you were saying is, not everybody hunts the same way. But basically, we run the same playbook. So maybe different speeds, maybe different calling, a little bit different calling strategies maybe. But, what we've all learned from the academy, I mean, that's what you guys put together. It is all a combination of years of experience. And, man, don't take that for granted. And, I've been through your academy several times, even after being in camp with you guys and even after coaching with you guys last year. I went through it again this year. I always say that, man, if you haven't done the academy, I highly encourage it. You will pick up nuggets here, and you may think that you know everything about elk hunting, and that's great. But you're going to pick up little nuggets here and there. And I'm sitting here looking at Joe and Gil, and I think about how many bulls if these guys put down on the mountain, and I'll take every bit of information from you guys, and still till today. I mean, I'm still like bending your guys' ear. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Hey, this is what I ran into.
That's what makes you a great coach. Bro.
So, it's don't take for granted what is given to you.
Yeah.
So, and then on top of that, I can't say enough about the friendships that I've gained from not only the ElkBros crew, but from everybody that's come into camp. I feel like everybody's family.
Yeah.
I mean, Keith and I have spent, hours upon hours on the mountain.
Sure.
And we've just had a ball.
Yeah.
I mean, we found ourselves up on the side of the mountain just laughing our butts off at each other, just over silly things. But in the end, we're running the playbook.
Yeah.
And it will pay off.
Yeah.
So, I will always say thank you guys for the opportunity that has been given to me. So, we're having fun.
What was really cool for me is that year, you were with me when I killed my bull.
Yeah, that was a heck of a day.
Hard hunt.
You drug me down, sore knee and all, and we got it done. So
last day. In fact, we had a podcast the night before.
Did.
And with the next day being the last day, basically, and everybody's kind of talking like the hunt was over. We were like, no, it ain't over till it's over.
Got one more shot.
Only takes what, 30 seconds there, Chico? Is that all it takes, man?
Baby.
Moments of plenty.
Moments, right? So that's been really, really cool, and it's true. I think the camaraderie, the relationships that happen like that. In fact, that's why at our camp, we have the first day where the coaches are showing the rhythm. Day 2, what's happening is now our coaches are asking you guys, we're asking y'all to get involved. We want them to start being part of it. Whereas on day 3, now we're kind of switching roles a little bit. We're still coaches, but now we're becoming more partners, letting them kind of run the lead.
Supportive.
And still giving out options, but we're really wanting them to develop to where they are developing some confidence. And it helps when we show them that first day, and it's still going to be a little struggle, but we just give them that support, we keep them that encouragement, and we keep trying to get them to be in that way, right?
Yeah, Joe said it best. I coach female fast pitch softball. If a girl's struggling at the plate hitting, I can't go up there and get the bat and hit for her. I have to give her encouragement. I have to give her skill set and a mindset to look for certain pitches, what she's really good at hitting, right? So we changed the focus from being just all mechanical to the mental side of hitting, right? But I can't hit for her, so I have to give her that mental mindset, right, to for them to be able to make the switch, right? And that's what we're here to do. I've spent 2 really cool days with Mark Koch, and he's such a student of the game, right? Everything for the first day was a teaching moment, right? For me, it's like, okay, can you tell me what would be why this area was good? We'd walk into an area and I'm finding
because they're screaming.
Yeah, not necessarily that. I mean, we put a good hike in that morning, and then we're going through an area, and I'm like, can you tell me why this would be a good area? And he goes, he looks around, and he goes, well, it's really nice, and I'm like,
it's nice and pretty.
Yeah, it's nice and pretty. It looks healthy. I'm like, look at that right there. And whoa, man, we got a 7-foot tree destroyed in front of us, right? So all of those things I want you guys to understand is we're looking for the reason why we want to be there, right? Not just elk bugling and stuff like that, for sure. That's telling you that there are elk in the area, but what that sign is showing us is the reason why we should dive into more detail about why the elk are in that area, how they're using those areas, how they're traveling, back and forth, and then how can we use the wind that we have to be successful to go in there. Because as Chico said, if you don't get the wind right, you lose at this game. You're not even going to see an elk if the wind's not right. So at 300 yards, they got you. They're out. Most of the time, we can't see 300 yards. We can see 70, 80 yards.
Sometimes you don't see 30, 40, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's pretty thick out in some of this stuff, man.
Yeah.
And we've got some blowdown that
You think it's thick out here?
Yeah, man, it's super thick, you know. And going back to what Cody said, the reason why, you know, Cody's done so well is because he's a student of the game, you know, and he listened and he possesses the skill set that we need as a coach to help develop and help teach you guys when they're out in the woods with them, you know. So
let me ask you, Mark. I mean, this experience, when people go to do something like this, they probably have a perspective of what that's going to be. Has it been that, or has it been something different, or?
Yeah, so for me, you know, I wanted to come in here and do the base camp and come to, you know, adventure camp to be more proficient. I've only gone elk hunting one other time with some guys, and it was kind of one of those things that it was almost like one of those guided tours, and it wasn't a lot of explaining of why we were doing certain things. And so, you know, I wanted to be in the elk woods and I wanted to learn how to hunt them. So once we started digging into the base camp and understanding everything, then and doing the Zoom calls has been great. But then it all came together once we actually got in camp, got boots on the ground, because at that point in time, it's just been phenomenal, because even all of the coaches are open. They're all open book. They'll share with any information that they have, as well as all the other hunters. You know, we're all a big family now. And so being able to have that is, you know, that's priceless. Being able to understand and know, okay, hey, I'm going into the woods with Big O now. Let's look at his perspective. You know, I understand what Base Academy taught us. Now let's see how he's looking at things. And so, yeah, it's far exceeded my expectations. And like I said, we've been hearing bulls scream every day. Today, Big O called in 3 bulls for us. So yeah, I mean, that's all you can ask for. It's been awesome.
No, it's not all we can ask for. Well, we can.
Well, we should. Instead on this podcast, we should all be packing out my elk, but that's another story.
Yeah, you can ask for more.
Actually, what we all should be able to ask for is that you're able to be able to call in that bull as well, man.
Right.
That's our goal.
Yeah.
You know, like we said, and I can remember, and most of you guys, man, it's like, man, we're showing up to elk camp, and the first thing I hear from everybody is, man, I'm going to go kill me an elk, right? And don't get me wrong, we want that, right? But for me, and for what we're doing here, just for you to come in and kill an elk, if I call that elk in for you and I put you in a position, well, you've got yourself an elk that year.
Yep.
But
exactly.
if I teach you that skill set, that's going to, it's the same thing of giving a man a fish or teaching a man to fish, right?
Right.
You know, and that's where we are with this. So, you know, I heard some things today, like I always listen to the stories when my coaches and the hunters are talking about what happened that day. And when I'm listening to the stories,
partly because we like to tell them.
You guys have to excuse me, because sometimes you're telling this story, and if we were all just hunters, right, and we all had that skill set and we're hunting together, man, it was like, what, you know, we're doing. But for me, I'm actually looking behind the story at what you guys,
what was learned.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Big O, I know, and like all the other coaches, I mean, every day there's so much knowledge that's just getting poured into us, and it's huge, and it's gonna be so beneficial.
We talk about takeaways every day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What did we take away from that set? What did we take away from that? You know, what did you take away from this? What do you feel like we could have done better? You know, what do you feel like we messed up in? Right? I mean, I messed up Colossal today. I really didn't understand that he had a decoy. I did know he had a decoy. I just didn't think about deploying it.
Yeah.
Right? So we made the transition to the decoy, and things happened differently, right? And I learned something using the decoy. I don't use a decoy very much, but I'm telling you, I'm going to start, because it is a game changer.
The
when
ultimate predator decoy was awesome today.
Predator decoy.
Why is it a game changer, guys?
Because you take when you're partner hunting, okay, you take the onus off of your hunter. right, off of the shooter, and you put it on yourself, and the bull actually doesn't pay attention to the hunter. He had absolutely no clue that Mark Koch is standing there locked and loaded, man.
So I want to ask you guys, so what is it about a decoy? Why is that so effective?
Well, I think it's effective because a lot of times because of our setup is hasty or something like that, sometimes those bulls get to those stop and scan spots, just like we learned in Base Academy, and when they see that decoy, they're like, oh, okay, I can go ahead and go in that 20 yards further, and there's the 2 holes.
Yeah, because they're trying to do what? How do they want to confirm first? Visually, right?
Eyeballs.
They want to confirm with those eyes. Seeing is believing. Same thing for us. So they're going to do the same thing. We're so much alike. How we hunt and how they act as animals is so much alike, because when they can't see, then they're doing it with the ears, right?
Yeah.
They're responding to a sound.
And really trying to get the smell too, man.
Yeah.
They really are.
So hunters, think about
You
the
see 'em
ways
lick
that
their nose.
hunters hunt these elk, man. A lot of guys glass because they're trying to confirm that there's elk in that area visually, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's a struggle in a lot of this area to be able to do that, right? So then what hunters do is they fall to the next thing. It's like, if I can't confirm with my ears that there's elk in this country, there's no elk in the country.
Right.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he learned that this morning, the visual part of hunting, by using your binos and moving real slowly through the woods and seeing all those little orange patches, and okay, yeah, it is a tree. Oh, okay. But always honing in on what that orange patch could be, right? And then we pick up those spikes immediately before we ever get in there.
But I think the point I'm trying to make with that, though, is so many hunters get caught up determining whether or not elk are in the woods by getting a verbal response.
Right.
Right?
I agree.
And I think that's a mistake.
Yeah.
They're hunting sound instead of hunting the animal, right? And it helps.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it helps.
Yeah, and that happened with us today, because obviously we did some calling sequences, and Big O and I was back there, and he was just hammering away doing all the calling, and I was set up as the shooter. And then once we kind of figured, the storms was coming, we're supposed to come back to camp, we kind of made it our way back. And as we were going back, that's when we heard that last bull bugle and kind of bark at us. And he had been coming in silent that whole time, and we kind of didn't think anything was coming, and there he was. He had already closed the gap, and he was 80 yards right there on us.
Oh, we got one of those stories.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we got one of those stories. So, Paul, you guys are the father-son group, and actually, you've been a long-time listener.
From the beginning. I think I listened to episode 3, went back immediately, listened to 1 and 2, and I've been through all the rest of them.
You are the man, Paul.
And you've had...
I don't even know if I've listened to them all.
It's a really cool experience for you because father-son are out here, right? And you said something really... And I hope all the parents out there listen to this. This is something that Paul said to me, was that, he says, I can fix anything. I'm a problem solver. I like to fix things. And he said, but there was a point where when it came to my son, to be a good parent, I had to back off and allow him to fix things, for him to problem solve. And
great advice.
It's great advice. It's super advice. And you ended up with a boy like that. Listening to, you pulled him into this, and man, I've had people that have had free opportunities to learn about elk hunting, and they just kind of take it like, they don't go through the academy. It doesn't mean that much. Let me tell you what, man, Seth has been eating it up. So you've done a great job with that, man. Super job. And I think guys got a great team. Their only problem is they're so tall, man, moving through the woods.
Raking every branch, huh?
Just means I'm a big bull.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we have a story about that very thing, about them not really talking. So Remember our lunch break that we had in the woods yesterday?
Is that when we got snuck up on by a couple cows and a bull?
Yeah.
Yeah. We were sitting there eating lunch, quiet as could be, weren't calling.
That was
but
actually day one, though. It was the day before yesterday,
but
right?
we've been calling the whole way through the woods, and we decided to take a break. And we said, "Oh, you know, you watch this way, and we'll watch this way." And the only thing we didn't watch was our back trail. And those elk followed us the same way we came in, and they were there. We just looked down, we looked up, and they were there. We were busted, you know. And nice bull and 2 or 3 cows, and they blew out of there. And
yeah, we looked. It's so funny because you and I are talking, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Joe and I were talking, and I just slowly was panning back to say something to my dad, and the field of vision came across, and there was a cow.
He looks over my shoulder.
Yeah, looks up over Joe's shoulder, and there's a cow staring at us 20 yards away, and I go, "Oh shit!" And and everyone else looks around, and everyone's, you know, there's side conversations still happening, and I'm locked up, and Joe's trying to get everyone to shut up, and telling my dad to get ready, and lock an arrow, and everyone starts shuffling around, and finally she didn't like what she saw, obviously, and they turned up and got out of there. But yeah, it was a good example of to pay attention, and there's always a scenario that can be everything's a scenario, and you should always be ready and mindful of where you're at and what's going on.
Yeah, in fact, I think when you first sat down and you started to pull stuff out, you know, we reminded you, knock an arrow, right?
We were ready.
Yeah.
We just weren't that ready.
Yeah. Because, and I think I had just said, it's so funny how things happen, you know, because, and here's a great point. We had been hunting through this area, and the guys kept looking at the ground, and they kept going, "Man, there's no sign in here." And I was like, it's a transition area. It's not always going to show like that. We see a track every now and then, but not much. And we sit down, and I told Seth, I said, when we sit down, I said, just give a little series of calls, and then every now and then do that. And he would. He would just do a little series of cow calls. I think we gave a location bugle every now and then.
Yeah, mostly cow calls.
Mostly cow calls,
Yeah.
right? And we're sitting there. It was not 20 minutes. And from the very area that we just hunted through, here comes these cows and a nice bull, right? And just really showing you that sometimes just because you don't see things the same way, it doesn't mean that it's always like that. That when you're calling and you're setting up, letting those animals know where you're going, and they get a chance. And the reason that I tell people is we stopped and we were there for 20 minutes, so they got a chance to actually get to us in elk time, right? If we'd have kept moving, they'd have never got to us. So sometimes just that stopping and taking a break. Have you ever found that to happen?
You bet. And you know, a lot of times it's kind of like turkey hunting in some ways. You know, you're turkey hunting. You don't hear anything. You know the turkeys are around. You let out a few calls, few clucks, and you shut down. And then 15, 20 minutes later, there's a tom. Never knew he was there. May not have ever said anything, or all of a sudden they got a gobble behind you. So they, kind of goes back to the issue with the talk about the decoy is, I've always said that if you call, you're creating an expectation. And what's that expectation? That you're an elk, that there's an elk there. So if they do get into that visual, that bubble where they can see you, they're looking for an elk. And if they don't see an elk, then
red flag.
That's a red flag for them. So, as I'm sitting here and listening to everyone talk about the encounters and in our, the things that we're doing with decoys, I think that should be the next ElkBros thing, is an ElkBros decoy. Because, and I brought one, and we're gonna take it out, JR. We're gonna use it because it can mean the difference between success and failure when you create that expectation and then you fulfill the expectation by saying,
Visual.
Yeah, I'm an elk.
Yeah, visual.
It's not, this is real.
Yep.
It makes a difference.
Absolutely.
It makes a difference.
What Mark really learned today with that decoy is how much movement you can get away with, right? How much movement he could get away with when the elk's moving, and how much I got away with I bet I moved 70 yards with the bull looking right at me, So, and he followed every movement I made. The bull followed, right? So for me, I learned a lot too. So, to echo Chico's sentiment, man, it's a game changer.
That's why your setup, that's why your setup is so critical. If you
have time,
if you have time, and if you have that situation. If you have a verbal animal, but yet, so for example, yesterday, and here's the reality of hunting, guys, is that you don't always get to have the good situation. So yesterday, we got bulls bugling. We've got a bull that's responding back to us. Man, he's only 150 yards away. He has cows with him, but we are on an extremely steep hillside. And then they ended up getting the high point on us. So we're down below them where they can look down there. You make any sound, they're looking for an elk, right? So we tried to do it where, Seth and Charlie were actually back in and further back, trying to actually keep them occupied while we moved in on them. But we're still at that disadvantage because they're up above us, able to look down. And we tried, man. We tried so many different things to pull them, and we kept them there, and we kept the cows there. But there's sometimes that the situation just sucks. And look, we said this earlier, Bart. I think we were talking, man, and I said elk hold all the marbles. They put themselves in the best position, and we're just trying to work to get them to make a mistake, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's important. I think a lot of guys get. Like when you get an animal talking, I hear this all the time. You have an animal responding, you go in to start to work it, and then it doesn't work out, and people go, well, what'd we do wrong?
Yeah.
Right?
Got sucker punched in the face.
It's not that you did anything wrong. They are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They generally have an animal that comes all the way into them visually, and that's when they have to fight or flight or whatever, right? Yeah. Sure. So that's an important thing to remember for all of our listeners, is that reality is not always the same as theory, and you're going to deal with problems, and yet with elk hunting, that is the funnest part of what we do, is trying to beat them at their own game, man.
Yeah, and in some of the other things guys are going to take away from this, and I got some really cool footage of elk barking and chuckling and barking and chuckling, and the game's not over, guys. When you get that bark or that chuckle and they're barking at you, it ain't over. Stay in the fight. Use your skill set, use your calling ability, and you can call them right back. We saw that several times today, huh, Mark?
Yep, absolutely.
So Mr. Cook was steadfast too. He never gave up. I mean, steadfast, waiting patiently, and he learned today how much he can move and how much he can get away with. So he'll be much more ready for that scenario when it comes up again,
So you guys, I'm going to hit each one of our adventure campers now. You guys are getting ready to start taking the lead. When I say something like that, what is the one thing, or what is something that makes you anxious, or that you're most concerned about, or that or that you feel like you might have difficulty with that, So Paul, you have that right there with you. So taking the lead, what is that?
So for me, I mean, Seth and I are good hunters, but I'm not a good killer. So I need to really focus on those last 15 seconds of the event to really focus on my aim point, picking out a hair that I want to shoot, and, keeping my form as perfect as I can and executing. That's the thing that I sit in the woods and I have little nightmares about,
You know, having that as a worry is really, really cool, because that means that you respect and honor the animal that you're after.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So that means something as well. That means that, and that's not a bad thing to have, because then it makes you work at doing it right when it happens.
And when it does happen, brother, and you finish, it'll get easier. I promise
It
you.
has, but you know, and then it
it'll get
hasn't.
easier. Right,
so
right.
I've been on both sides of the fence.
Sure.
So when you're right, when it's perfect and you see that lighted knot go right through and 2 holes, it's glorious.
Exactly.
But there
Not
are other
much better.
times when it's not so glorious. So you know, so
We've all been there, Paul.
yeah.
Oh, and dude, this is my 42nd season, and it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just something that we always have to do our best to try to work through and ensure that we do the best we can. So it sounds to me like you got a lot of confidence in your boys' abilities now to go out there and kind of lead that and make it
has
happen.
been. I tell you what, this whole adventure camp thing through the Zoom calls and everything has been absolutely fabulous. We should have done this years and years ago, you know. But I'm sure happy to do it now.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
That's awesome, man. So let's go over here. I'm going to pick on you, Keith, man. What are you anxious about, or what are your concerns, or?
My concerns is what brought me to adventure camp to begin with. Is I'm good at finding where elk have been. I'm not good at finding where elk are at. And Cody has said to me a few times that I'm in paralysis by analysis, because I want to look at the whole mission objective and look at all the things, and the enemy gets a vote, and then their vote is pretty substantial. And so so just trying to, you know, keep all those tools at my fingertips and ready to execute, but just finding them is the bane of my hunting existence, right? And so that's what makes me nervous.
So, and the only thing I can tell you on that is you're no different than anybody. I mean, all of us are always trying to work just to be able to find them and be in the right place. And when you're finding where elk were, a lot of times you are finding where elk are going to be. The timing might not be right, but you're in the right places, because elk like to frequent those same places, you know. I mean, and it can be a day's difference.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, shoot, you guys were in the one area, you and Adam, and elk were blowing up. We were in that area maybe 2 days later or 3 days later, and nothing in there. They were all the ridge over, you know, and we go over one ridge, it's blowing up. But you wouldn't think, in this beautiful country in there, and, you know, you're like, where are they at? And you go over one ridge, and there they are.
Yeah.
So
Even Mark and JR and I walked up the same hill that Cody and I did the day before. We came out and reported to you that we ain't seen nothing. And then Cody and I walked through there the next day, found all these bedding areas, found fresh poo. Darn it.
So let me touch on that a little bit. Cody's been in this area. He understands that little area over there probably a little better, the nuances than you do. My son had a lake that he needed to fish, and he'd never been there a day in his life. Me either, right? I did a little bit of map study myself the night before, knowing what I was needing to look for. We get on the lake. It's gassing 40 miles an hour out of the north, 5-footers. I'm like, well, I looked at this little spot on the map. I really feel like it's a really good spot. We pull in there, and we hit the mother load as soon as we got there, man. We got 17, 18 pounds and like 5 casts. I'm like, you don't need to go nowhere else, brother. Right here. He goes, I could have fished all day and never got a bite. How did you know to go right here? I've been doing it for 30 years, brother.
Yeah.
You know, when I look at a map, nowadays when I look at something on this Onyx, shout out Jeremy Gilbertson and Onyx. When I look at it, I know what to look for to cut down all of this country, man.
Yeah.
Right? And it ain't luck. It's just because we understand the travel habitats and we understand the country a little better. So don't beat yourself up about that, man.
and sometimes it's,
and believe me, we get our teeth kicked in all the time. Brother.
sometimes it's just finding those little holes that other people overlook.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's finding those places that other people don't want to go. I mean, Doc, you guys did that, right?
A couple
You know?
times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did 3,800 vertical feet with Jeremy yesterday. But it was good. It was good. So good.
Only guys like y'all could do that. You couldn't ask that out of me, Doc. I'd still be up there.
That's the only way. That's the only way to do it, right,
Yeah.
JR? That's the only way to do it. You know, JR made a really good observation this morning. We were on that ridge that, you know, that drainage that you told us to go through, Coach. And then we pushed high. He's like, "Where are we going?" I pointed up. He's like, "Okay, that's what I thought. We're gonna go high." So we went high, and then we dropped over into the next drainage. And just by dropping over into the next drainage, he says, you know, because we could hear the cars on the other side, could hear the river, you could hear dogs barking. Once we dropped into the other side, silence. It was quiet. So, you know, it tells us a couple things, right? That, you know, even though you're one drainage over, the elk could have been rutting and bugling and calling, and we might not have heard them. And so, you know, once we popped over, then that kind of changed our attitude a little bit about how we were going to call, because we knew our calls were going to carry, and whatever was in that drainage could hear us. But from one ridge to the next, it went from, you know, the sound of the town, cars, dogs, people walking
sound
their
going
dogs.
A long ways to
The river, we could hear the river,
yeah,
all the way up there.
Yeah.
And then once we popped over, then it was just quiet, and that's what, you know, JR was like.
So
you notice that it's so quiet now.
The funny thing about that is we had that very same conversation. Remember, I said that to you, Paul. I said, you know, because we were in there, and I'm like, we should have heard bugles in here. But I said, guys, have you noticed we're not hearing any cars? You hear any dogs barking? Can you hear the river? You know, so sound just wasn't carrying.
Yeah. It gets trapped in those. It gets trapped in those places. The other thing that JR is really good at checking the wind, and one of the things, and it's not just this unit. It's New Mexico in general. The wind, you know, if the wind is not in your favor, just stop. Just wait. And then pretty soon it's going to shift, or it's going to swirl. The wind is always going to be a pain in your neck, because it's going to shift on you.
Yeah.
You know, we had thermals that were doing what they say thermals are supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then the storm started to come in, and those prevailing winds were coming in the opposite direction. So, you know, but you can wait. You know, don't get discouraged if you got something going on and you check the wind and it's bad. You're like, oh, we're toast. No, just stay put. The other thing is the forest itself, you know, especially if you're in the thick stuff, it'll absorb a lot of your scent.
Yeah, it will. So, Bart, let's ask you. Taking the lead, what's the thing?
I think it's just trying to access the complexity of the options for setups. You know, like I always want to go to the cow party. You know, it's something I internalized, and I just need to open my mind up to all the different possibilities for the setups and the improvisation that's required to be successful. I think, you know, you can't really understand improvisation until you have the fundamentals down. So it's hard for me to get to that level of improvisation until I've got the fundamentals down.
Yeah, one thing I want to remind everybody too is that these animals have been hunted already for the last 20 days. So some of them, it ain't their first rodeo, and so there's got to be some things that got to really go right for it to happen like that, you know. Mark, I'm going to ask you, man.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, I'm going with Big O tomorrow and putting together our plan. We've already kind of
going with you, brother.
Big O's going with me. So we already kind of started talking about our plan. The anxiety side on for me is, you know, Big O put us on 3 bulls today.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, now the challenge is up to me to make sure that I put us in the right situations to be able to actually see and get those shot opportunities that we had today. And
I'm here to support that, brother. So
yeah,
whatever you need from me, you got it.
Yeah,
right?
And I feel pretty confident that, you know, from the things that I've learned the last few days, as well as in base camp, we're gonna put together a solid plan. We're gonna go in there and we're gonna execute it, and then we're gonna sit down and we're gonna talk about it and figure out our takeaways and learn from it. So we're ready.
And I think you need to take a look at the small wins first. I mean, a lot of people are like, okay, so it's going to be up to me to do some calling, right? So you get a response, that's a win. Right?
Yes.
That's a huge win. And response does not always mean, just like today. Yeah, it doesn't mean that he's verbal about it. They come in. Today you had a bull that never said a word for all that time. And that's another thing, too. There can be certain things that push an elk's button. Like this morning, when we went out this morning, I was showing the rhythm of my morning call, right, to set. So I give out my voice cow call, nothing. I give out the cow call through the tube, nada. I give a location bugle. Now this isn't just boom, boom, boom. This is listening after each one, right? Nothing after that location bugle. So I told Seth, I was like, sometimes when I don't get anything, I have something that I do that for some reason it'll spark a response, and I did a double bugle. I did that double bugle, and right away, we get off on the side. So it took that to push that elk's button. Right?
So yeah, and Gilbert, we went through as we were doing the calling sequences and things like that, and we every elk was a little different that we encountered, but we were able to kind of dissect, okay, hey, this is what we just called, this is what they're responding to. And so then from then on, we were able to kind of pick that up and utilize that to further push us down the line.
And what call was that?
That was the little bull mew.
Yeah.
Yep.
The bull mew
was,
and I want everybody to know that I can get them to fire up every time anytime I bull mew or anything like that. They all fire up. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. But if I want them to respond, all I got to do is do that bull mew, man. And it's a simple, little bull mew, and they respond to it every time. Or an insistent estrus buzz, a really high estrus buzz call, the green weenie, bro. Mark was right. The green weenie will fire them right up.
Fires them up. Yeah. That's awesome.
So
that's very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So my disappointment down there on the end there, huh, JR?
Yeah. So
I was going to plug my own call, bro.
A few months ago, like on our first call, my biggest concern at that point was calling, because I knew how to make what I thought were elk sounds. After getting the feedback, they weren't quite elk sounds, and so just the improvement on the calling has been great. But I think I've been relying on Chico to do all the calling the last day and a half, and so I'm excited for tomorrow to start taking the reins on that, and then getting his feedback as I do that too, because even though my calling has improved, it still squeaks here and there, or it still make mistakes, and just getting his advice. Okay, so I did this, what do I do next? Or if I'm not getting a response here, should I try this call or try that call? And just talking those things through and figuring out the calling aspect a little bit more.
And sometimes Joe will tell you run through every gamut you got to try to figure out what that button is, right? And you're like, man, ain't nothing working, and it's something really simple, then it's boom, fires them up,
Yeah. And sometimes just simply, it's funny, and I think you
Breaking
said
a
it
branch?
today. Yeah. Just, you go through and all of a sudden you stumble, you break a branch, and the bull bugles at you.
Yeah, man.
Because really, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for sounds of elk, man. And I think that's where a lot of hunters mess up. They start doing calling. They start really tiptoeing through the woods instead of sounding like elk coming through the woods. So
this isn't whitetail hunting anymore.
No, it's not whitetail.
We learned that lesson today, didn't we, Big O?
Yeah, Mr. Cook's 100% right. I told him, I said, I'm going to make a whole lot of noise, and you're going to go, what in the world is he doing back there? Because, I was breaking things and slamming things and making sounds like elk are fighting, Like, if you ever seen an
He had
elk
to start
fight, it's
shedding clothes. He was down there sweating so hard.
yeah. I mean, I'm out of breath. I'm about to pass clean out. But if you've ever watched two elk fight, man, it is violent. And I mean, they tear the woods up. They run over trees. I mean, I've been so close I had dirt kicked on me and I was scared to death, you know, that they were going to run me over. So
that's something we haven't mentioned either, and hasn't been talked about a lot. And it's actually something in the back of my playbook, and that's rattling.
Yeah.
You know, you get a little bit of horns, you start doing some rattling, man, or some popping. And
Keith tried that the other day when we were out, when Keith and JR tried it.
Mm-hmm.
He broke out the horns, the whitetail rattling bag, and he went to trying to work it as Keith was down there.
I think when you get a bull of any kind of response, like that, I think sometimes that when you have two other bulls engaged, when they're not threatening that bull that's there, I think they'll come in to take a look as to why that's going on. So it's just something to keep in mind. But
maybe to come in and try to steal the cows they're fighting over.
So to put JR's mind at ease a little bit, he has called a couple times. I've asked him, I said, hey, why don't you rip a bugle, or do some cow calling. He's done really well. There's been a couple times that I've been calling, and we'll come back after the sequence or whatever, and I'm like, did you hear that? I was like, the reed was like on the side of my mouth, and I was like,
I told Mr. Cook that
once
too.
you start, you just got to keep going, because you don't
stop.
But it's not a big deal if you follow up a call. I mean,
especially with
bugles.
bull sounds and bugles, man.
Cow sounds are a lot different, man.
It can be, yeah. I mean, when it gets tight and critical, right? And that's the other thing too. And one thing I told the guys is that, listen to what's happening in the woods. I mean, cows here, I've heard a couple of cows making sound. They're not being super vocal. So you got to be very sparing with that and just kind of give a little bit of a carrot there, not overdo it with some of that. So you just read what's happening with the animals. Read the room like that.
Cody gave me something when I came into camp yesterday, was the amount of time it took him to get the call in, right? He actually experienced, they called for 30, 45 minutes, and they actually left their call area to have something already coming in, and they blew them up, right? Because they were moving. And he was like, man, I don't know, I might wait an hour and a half, in this thing. So he really slowed me down in our sequences and everything, much more than I like, because I don't like slowed down. I like run, gun, call, go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one. As long as I got bulls popping off, I'm going to keep going, right? If we can't get that one to play ball, let's go play ball with the next one. But he really had me slow down the last couple of days, and I don't get that if he doesn't share that information, right? So those are, as coaches, we learn from one another, so those is valuable information for today's hunt for sure, because we had to be really patient.
Guys, I know, man, we're sitting here, it's getting shadier, it's getting colder. A lot of us are shivering, so you guys that are listening to this,
everybody's hungry, Joe.
Yeah. We wanted to share something special with you, and this camp is absolutely special. I couldn't be more proud to be involved with all the people that we have here. We've got our guys, that for Chav, RC, Gil, and myself, this is super, super special. It's seeing...
It's a labor of love.
Yeah, man, and a dream become reality, right?
Absolutely.
And we've got some really cool things. This is changing next year.
It is. It's changing. Are you going to make the announcement now, Joe?
Hey, so here it is. Here it is, man.
We've wished for
Drum
this.
roll, please.
Prayed over this for the last 10 years. RC Knox has been praying for it too, I guarantee you, because we're going home.
We're going home, man. You guys have heard us talk about how all this started with Carl Gamage. First time I met Gil here, Gil was a client of mine at a very special place, the Martinez Canyon Cow Camp, Martinez Cow Camp in New Mexico. It's going to be about 7,000 acres of private land. We now have the lease on that property.
We do.
So me, Chav, RC, and Gil, we're going home. It's a place that's very special to our heart. And so we're going to be able to not just do one coach camp, we're going to be doing multiple coach camps. We're going to be having teaching guides for when the rifle season hits. We'll be doing deer, we'll be doing bear, we'll be doing turkey. And we just found out yesterday that we also received a lease in my backyard of the Chase Ranch,
So cool,
in
man.
right there
the
near
famed Chase Ranch.
Cimarron, New Mexico. Another 11,000 acres to be able, and it's just so full of game and stuff there. So ElkBros has just jumped to the next level with some of our own property, be able to do these things and try to offer some really cool things to people that want to learn about elk hunting and then do some other cool things as well.
And share the experience of an unbelievably special place that's near and dear to our hearts. We've prayed over this the last 10 years, so it's
and it's been a 10-year thing.
It has been 10 years, and you know, we wanted to go home, and we kept praying about it. God's faithful, you know.
Amen.
And it means so much, y'all. There'll be a couple of things there at that cabin. There's going to be a chair sitting in one spot in that cabin that's going to have a hat, a buckle, and a little stand for a whiskey glass. And that chair is going to be, that's Carl's chair.
And that whiskey glass won't ever be empty.
Don't sit,
and
don't sit it.
It's he will be with us on every hunt there. That's very, very special to our heart, and can't tell you how excited we are and what that means. And it means so much to me. And my wife has known for years that my ashes will be put there at that place one day. So we're looking forward to sharing something special with everybody else out there.
It's going to be amazing. You know, I would be remiss to say, as we get to know these guys, we know them personally, right? So I said God's faithful. We've been praying for Miss Lori, Keith's wife, and he's probably got a little announcement to make. So, you know, God's faithful.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you for all the positive thoughts, prayers, and well wishes. She's had a couple of surgeries now. They say she's cancer free. So
woo!
Yeah,
woo!
Yeah, absolutely. So very thankful. So thank you, thank you.
Yep, and our thoughts out to Adam Messner and everything that you're going through out there. Yep. Thankful, guys. Thank y'all very much for this special camp that we're having. Yep. I can't wait to see what all's happening the next 3 days. We got some spike outs that are going to happen. Some guys are going to go do some things out in the country. We're excited about that.
Yeah, these boys get to lay the rubber on the road, man. Yep. So it's going to be fun to watch.
How's the food been, y'all?
Oh, it's been great.
Yeah, shout out to Knox and Chav for hooking us up every day. Burritos and sandwiches to go. I mean, the food's been amazing.
And
so
the cowboy cobbler, is that
cowboy cobbler and cowboy coffee every morning. I mean, it's been absolutely off the chain. So
we hope y'all have enjoyed coming into elk camp with us. Literally, we were all sitting right here. We're all freezing our butts off right now. We're looking forward to what the future brings, and we can't wait to talk to you on the next podcast. And we're going to sign off, Gil. So tell them.
No, hey, guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review us. You got to go to Apple Podcasts, or Apple iTunes, and absolutely want to thank all of our sponsors, everybody that's here at the ElkBros Adventure Camp. Want to thank everybody. You know, and also, please send your questions to ElkBros.com if you want your questions.
Or you can send them to Joe at ElkBros.com.
Or you can send them to Joe at ElkBros.com if you want your questions answered on our show. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, husbands, kiss your wives. Wives, kiss your husbands. Hug your babies. Keep your broadhead sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
There we go. Peace, everybody.
And please check out Mr. Tony Wintrip music to close out our show.
I'd like to put my tag on you. I've been hunting a lot of years. I had one too many missed shots and one too many beers. I saw you rolling in when the lights went down, but you never even had a clue. So I left the blind on a Sunday afternoon. I think I'd like to put my tag on you. Well, I spent a couple nights in the window, just watching the wind blow by. I'm wondering where you're gonna make your bed at, and where you'll go with that sunrise. Do you see yourself in the hands of a man with the working man blues? I think I'd like to put my tag on you. I'd like to put my tag on you. I'd give anything but my rifle that my grandpa passed through. Yeah, I'd like to put my tag on you. You got the biggest rack, and Lord knows that I have passed a few. If I could give a damn about the money, here's the cold hard truth. I think I'd like to put my tag on you. There's an empty space in my man cave that my buddies recognize, and it has your name all over it, but you gotta jump that fence tonight. The full moon is rising, and tomorrow's sky is blue. I'd like to put my tag on you. Yeah. I'd like to put my tag on you. I'd give anything but my rifle that my grandpa passed through. Yeah. I'd like to put my tag on you. You got the biggest rack, and Lord knows that I have passed a few. I could give a damn about the money. Here's the cold hard truth. I'd like to put my tag on you. I'd like to put my tag on you.